Okay, this is a brief amount of homework help, but one of the things we've been learning about in class and for homework is the periodic chart. This is the periodic chart that we're going to be using for homework. We're going to be using it for quizzes. We're going to be using it for tests. I hand these out in class, and I keep a set in class for students to use. A couple of things I'd like for you to notice on the periodic chart. First of all, the symbols, of course, right? The symbols are abbreviations that represent the name of each element, right? Each type of matter that's been found on Earth. For example, the symbol H represents hydrogen, He, helium, and so forth. Other things that are interesting, there are certain substances like iron that do not start with the English name I. The symbol isn't I as you would have predicted based on the pattern, but rather we may use the Latin name ferrous or something similar to represent it. Here, copper is represented with a Cu. That's for the Latin name cupric. So there's some things about the names. Other things we've noticed about the periodic chart is this staircase. We're going to need to use this to make predictions about where the nonmetals are located on the periodic chart versus where the metals are located. So you'll notice that the staircase is a separation, and things to the right of the staircase are the nonmetals, and things to the left of the staircase are the metals. This is one exception. Hydrogen is not a metal. So hydrogen is sometimes written over here just to show that it's not a metal, but it's mostly written over here because it behaves like a metal, even though it's a gas. It's not a metal. So those are some basic features about the periodic chart that we talked about in class, and that might help with the homework. So the homework starts by asking you to write the formula and draw a particle diagram. So a chemical formula is simply representing the chemicals given, but using the symbols from the periodic chart. So the first item says 1 calcium and 1 oxygen. Let's take a look at the periodic chart. Find calcium, Calcium is number 20 here, the symbol is Ca, and oxygen is number 8, the symbol is O. So if I have to draw a formula with 1 calcium and 1 oxygen, and then the particle diagram for that, you might just want to use like 2 circles and maybe use like 2 different colors to differentiate them. One is a particle of calcium, one is a particle of oxygen. Another example would be 2 lithium and 1 oxygen. So again, check the periodic chart. The symbol for lithium is Li. That's number 3 on the periodic chart. And then the symbol for oxygen is O. But see how it says 2 lithium? So we might put a subscript 2, and that would help us know how many. And then when we draw the particle diagram again, we'll use the O. Maybe we'll use a different color for lithium. That would kind of make sense, right? Just use some kind of logical reasoning when making these. We're going to talk about them in class, what's the best way to represent them. So once you're done filling in the first couple of pages, the second page says to just list all the formulas you made in this shrunken down version of a periodic chart. So I think one of the formulas we made was Li2O, and then we made another formula, that has lithium in it, so I wrote it in the lithium box. It also has oxygen in it, so I'll write it in the oxygen box as well. Another formula we made was calcium, CaO, so I'll write it in the calcium box, but it also has oxygen, so I'll write it in here too. Okay, might have to shrink those down to make enough room because there'll probably be a lot with oxygen. Oxygen is very abundant in the environment. It makes up 20% of the air we breathe, so it will be in a lot of chemical compounds. So you'll finish filling those in, and then the next page basically asks you some questions about it. Look for trends. What kinds of things tend to bind together? And in what ratios do they tend to bind together? So I can tell you now that many students won't have perfect answers for this page. They're going to come with more questions than answers. give it a try, and we'll talk about it in class.